Some women are simply born rich, confident, and naturally magnetic to their desires. Let's be clear, this podcast is not for them. However, if you're a soul-driven, visionary, or entrepreneurial woman who's been on a mission to learn how to create a better future bursting to come out of you, welcome to my world. I'm Jo Warwick, and this is Rich, Sexy, and Free. I've dedicated most of my career to helping women get to their core power and unlock the missing pieces for their own unique success. You may already know me as the author of The Big Book of Love. With 30 years experience in psychology, embodiment, manifesting, and energetics, we will be exploring together the keys to becoming rich, sexy, and free. So if this excites you, don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite platform so you can stay up to date with the podcast. Welcome to today's episode of Rich, Sexy, and Free. And today it's just one of those intimate sessions, just you and I. Hi, I'm Jo Warwick, and this month we have been diving into self-value, that shifting into higher levels of self-love, self-value, so that you transform your life. And you'll hear me speak over and over again about how sexy, the element of rich, sexy, and free, is the magnetic bridge between having the rich and free life that you want, being unapologetically you and living not only a rich experience, but being magnetic to rich opportunities. So I'm so pleased that we're going to be diving into this subject a bit more, just you and I want to tell you a story of a little girl who was brought up believing that her looks were the only thing that mattered. She was adored for how cute she looked. She was celebrated for how happy she was, how joyful she was. And yet she never really got recognized for the way that her brain worked. She grew up in an environment where all it was about was, how can I get attention? How can I be seen? How can I get attention from men and from women by being cute, by being smiley, by being sexy, by the way she looked? And yet she knew deep inside of her that she was so intelligent. She saw things that other people didn't. She had gifts and she had talents that other people did not have. She felt like she was in the Matrix the first time that she saw it. She was like, oh my God, I can see all of these things that other people don't. And yet she'd been hiding behind how pretty she had to look. And it never seemed to be enough. She always felt like she was either too fat or too tall or too short or never good enough. Her body never stayed perfectly a size this or that. And yet it was this constant struggle. She was bored to her core because she couldn't express who she really was. Her school life was all about failing and not fitting in to what other people expected. If she didn't get the right results, she was told she was stupid. She failed her A-levels because her mum had cancer. She didn't have the resources to be able to deal with what was going on at home and dealing with the fact that she was energetic and emotional. She grew up in an environment where emotions were told to be squished down. So she thought she was stupid. For a long time, that was the story. And so when she failed her exam, she went off and followed a path that seemed right and good for her because she was really talented at riding, at being around with animals and nature. However, her world was to come crashing down and transform for the better when she didn't achieve her dream of riding for her country. It was going to set her off on a path of becoming a psychotherapist. Now, of course, you must know by now, this is my story. And this story transformed for me the moment my life changed with having the riding accident. I thought I'd lost everything, and yet I was to gain the opportunity to use the power within me. My whole life, I had felt like my God-given gifts, my talents being me, was not enough, not good enough. And then when I found a path which felt right to me, I got to study and train again as a psychotherapist. And I was hungry. I studied I soaked up absolutely everything because it resonated with my core skills and it resonated with what I was trying to heal on the inside. And I fast tracked. I have no idea how I collapsed time that I went from training to working with people all over the world to being validated and worshipped and successful for what I did, both within my county, my town, my country, and then worldwide. I worked trying to research and find my way to the core of how humans worked and developed in a healthy way with love and why we needed love and how love affected our mind, our body, and our energy. Because I couldn't understand why I wasn't being loved. In my soul, I knew I was lovable. I knew I was interesting. I knew I was powerful. And yet my story was about, no, you must be one dimensional. And the more that I got to learn, the more I shut down the way that I looked because I wanted to live and be seen for my brain. So I proved myself. I went and caught every single label I could get. Letters in front of my name, letters after my name, awards and recognitions, speaking opportunities, writing opportunities. I had 250,000 people read just one of my blog posts. I wrote for some of the most incredible sites, but the more that I took it worldwide, it was like, oh my God, I was seen, I was heard, my program sold, I fast tracked. And yet, because I disregarded my body, I rejected who I was, my physicality, the thing that had I'd been using to succeed both as a child, but also when I was in business, that enabled me to open doors to be successful in the startup world when I was in my early 20s. All of my survival techniques I rejected. And so I rejected then my body. And it all came crashing down. I came into burnout because I didn't have the capacity to handle the recognition, the success. I became like someone who was all head and no body. I didn't have a big head. I had just a massive brain and a body that was weak because there was no energy flowing through my body. I was fascinated, obsessed with the universe, with quantum world, with PTSD. I work with people about neuroscience. I have covered every subject to understand how your brain works, how your neurological state is, how your nervous system works, how your physicality works, how your biology works. All the things I had been fascinated with as a kid of physics and biology and science and language. And yet I never got the support and the opportunity when I was in school or the recognition. The only things I was recognized for was, of course, singing and speaking and being cute. Now, those things had their place, but my inside of my brain needed to be honored and it needed to connect with my body. So at 40, my world, I blew it up. I had reached a point of resistance and resentment and frustration. I became sexless. I became lacking in my life. There was just nothing else, and no amount of achievements, no amount of CEO titles, founder titles, therapeutic titles, no amount of money, no amount of clients, no amount of achievements was satisfying me because I was lacking myself. I wasn't loving the part of me that mattered as well as my brain. Does this sound similar to you? I'm interrupting this amazing podcast episode because I must tell you about my new and beautiful space called Loved that does exactly what it says in the name. It is a sanctuary for women to reconnect with that infinite source of love within themselves so that they can come to having a deep, loving, unconditional relationship with themselves. We all know that rich, sexy, and free, that the sexy element is the magnetic bridge between the rich and free life that you deeply desire. That life where you get to fall madly in love with yourself, create your life, attract those loving interactions so you feel so deeply loved every single day by yourself, by the universe, by the people that you meet, so that every interaction and connection leaves you feeling rich to your core. That does also include money and opportunities, but above all, that you're getting to be seen and heard and living fully unapologetically. Loved is a free space for you to come and join a community. We are kicking it off with a free 3-day immersion to really activate you moving into feeling loved on a deep level, become more magnetic and fall madly in love with yourself. And this immersion is going to stay free inside the group. So it doesn't matter when you join, you can still access it. Exciting? I know. All you have to do to join the group is head on over to richsexyandfree.com. So I then spent 10 years, or coming up 10 years, realigning my body, loving my body, getting to be in a love affair with my own body and healing those childhood wounds where I felt like I was too big and not enough, that I was too fat, too tall, too messy, too emotional, all of those things. I thought I had done the emotional work, but what I was doing previously was understanding on a spiritual level, understanding on a soul level. I was aligned with my purpose, but I didn't have the capacity for the success. And so it was like my vehicle broke down, my car broke down. So I needed to mend the car. I couldn't align with that success until I had healed the vehicle. I had to slow myself down, and I did. Now, at the time, it didn't feel like this. It felt messy, and I felt like a failure, and I felt like, oh my God, what was wrong with me? Why have I suddenly blown everything up? But it was because I wasn't aligned and I couldn't handle it. And it was so important that I took time out to align my body. Now, the irony is, at the end of last year, I was then signed for a modeling agency because I had reached a point of healing my relationship with my own body, that it wasn't about them giving me validation. It was about me saying, my body matters too. My looks matter too. My face matters too. But it doesn't matter more than my brain. My brain doesn't matter more than my looks. It's that I am a whole, holistic, beautiful being. Feminine, masculine in energy and feminine energy, but feminine as a woman, loving my curves, loving the way that my body is. My body is the housing for my soul, for the power that flows through me. So it's been a real journey of recognizing where I have rejected myself, where I have also not only had to heal the inner child wounds, but to heal the wounds that were sitting still in my body, that I wasn't loving myself, that being human wasn't okay. And I know this story resonates for so many women. This idea that you either get to have your looks or you get to have your brain. I mean, God, how many messages are out there that women who use their brains, who are successful in science and business, look like blokes or reject themselves or become sexless? How many women become mothers and then have crap relationships because they stop loving themselves? How many women thought that the only way that they got attention was through sex and the way that they look? My gosh, we only had to look at social media. And for a while, I was looking at that going, Jesus, how am I going to succeed on social media? Because the only way I'm supposed to be able to do that is the way that I look. And then I got to get my kit off, that nobody would hear me. It felt like going back to my childhood, and it made me so angry because my businesses had always grown on, particularly my therapeutic businesses, had grown on my skill, on my knowledge, on my intellect, on my wisdom. But it came down to me accepting, as the queen that I am, as the soul aligned being that I am, as the rich, sexy, and free woman that I am, is that I get to have it all. I get to be attractive through my mind, through my body, through my energy, and through my soul, because they're all flowing together, because I am designed perfectly the way that I am. And I get to use my God-given gifts. My divine gifts and talents include my brain, include the way that I look, include my energy, include my powerhouse and force, and include my voice. And the one thing that I learned recently coming into human design is it's given me the greatest sense of permission to see that the way that I made was exactly how I meant to be and how I succeed. And it has opened the door to see, oh my gosh, I rejected myself for this. Yeah. But now I get to love myself. And interestingly, in this journey, I have returned to the work that absolutely made me so successful before. As a psychotherapist, I was obsessed about love. I was obsessed about self-love. I was obsessed about human design, development, and growth. I am an expert in attachment. I am an expert in how we repress our growth, how we come into thriving, how the body knows everything, how our psychological makeup is also just as important as our biological makeup. And I worked with children, couples, young people, families. I worked with people who were in domestic violence and abuse, and I worked with people wanting a healthy relationship. I worked with so many people. Oh my God, I've done thousands and thousands of hours of work. I had all of this, but I wasn't ready to be able to say I was enough, that I am enough in my body, in my soul, in my voice, in my intelligence, and in my mind. So if this is activating you, if this is interesting to you, this has come to the forefront, particularly as well for the women who have been inside our challenge that we've just been running, the Rich, Sexy and Free Challenge, which is now called Reset. I have made it available as a digital program. It blew my mind. It was so much more than I intended it to be. It's now 14 days. The women that joined live, it has blown their minds too. It is so powerful to reset, and it was powerful for me to run it too, to reset and combine the exercises that I have honed over the years with Rich, Sexy and Free as embodiment. I've made it faster and quicker and easier to align both psychologically and embodiment work that all aligns you with love, the power of you loving yourself unconditionally, the power of moving energy through your body. It's like getting all the wheels lined up on your car and making sure that the fuel tank is full, the oil is full, and you get to reset for that. Because if you want to have a rich, sexy, and free life, if you want to have more money, a better job, a successful business, amazing home life, you want to be free as yourself, you want a great sex life, all of those things, you get to have it all, but you must come from a place where you are fully tapped in, turned on, potent and powerful, flowing that all of that fuel of love through you. Of course, I am the author of the Big Book of Love. This was the foundation. So if you haven't bought the Big Book of Love, go and check it out. Loving Yourself, Dating with Love, Loving Relationships. It is the manual. Okay. Get the second edition. You can get it in audio. You can get it in print. You can get it in Kindle. It is the manual to understanding and shifting. Otherwise, come and join the brand new group Loved, which you would have heard about the advert. But most importantly, if you want to take the action, you can now grab Reset to More. It's only $44. It's yours to keep. It's 14 days packed with activities that it's intensive, but it's bite-sized. It's powerful because I have harnessed and honed my skills to be able to stop you having to do hours and hours of therapy. Not keep fixing, keep healing, keep thinking you're the problem, but instead reclaim your ability to come back to self-ownership, self-love, self-alignment, and recognize about getting your needs met so you can step forward into a rich and sexy and free life. I love you as my audience, as my listeners, and being in my world, but I love you as a woman, from one woman to another, that you deserve this, because every single woman deserves to know how magnificent they are. Also men too, but you deserve it. And I am so passionate about this because it has also been my own journey. It's been great to connect with you today. If you want to find out more about how I can help you personally, or check out any of my books, products, or coaching packages, just simply go ahead and visit richsexyandfree.com. And I look forward to seeing you next week on the podcast.